I gotta tell you guys, I've been dreading this day for a while, and really was searching for words that I could say that could encapsulate, what I've been feeling, to kind of chronicle what my life has been like for the past 365 days. My father passed away January 26, 2024. It is now January 26, 2025. And it's been a really rough year. It's been a really rough year. I've gone through a lot of emotional back and forth in various ways. The day that I was informed of his passing, I was servicing a personal training session. And I was pretty much oblivious to what was going on in the world. And then just like that, my whole world completely changed for the worse. Just one voicemail from the medical examiner's office changed pretty much everything. I've gotten a lot of assistance from people to dull the pain, to distract me from the pain in various ways. And I got to give some credit to my father, I guess, in some ways, because he gave me a lot of inspiration to focus my pain into something that I believe is worthwhile. And the thought in my head continuously over the past year is, I wonder how my father would react if he could see how I've developed in the last year. And that thought just never leaves my mind. And I've used that to try to fuel me to be a better version of the man that he knew that I was trying to be before he took his last breath. I know that I'm not going to be some reinvention of a different person. I'm not going to turn into some super great I'm not going to turn into anything but an adjusted version of who I always was. But I am always thinking about, the fact that my father always told me that he was proud of me, no matter what I was doing or trying to do. He always tried to support me in whatever my endeavors were, whether it be, trying to become somewhat of a successful content creator, a family man, a bodybuilder, strength athlete. He was always really happy with the things that I had accomplished, but also my aspirations, the things that I wanted to accomplish. And so for the past year, I've just tried to turn it up a notch, so to speak, and trying to just be a better version of the man that he knew when he left this earth, when he left this life. And I continue to try to strive to be better every day. I really do. I'd really try to work hard to be better every single day. And the thought that always runs through my head is, if he could see me now, what would he say? I think about that, especially as an athlete. The other day, I actually hit a lifetime goal that he knew that I always wanted, but I never really thought was a viable goal. And that was to get my body weight up to 200 pounds, which I just didn't think was genetically possible, despite the fact that on my father's side of the genetics, let's just say it's very easy, if I had my father's physical genetics, to have gone to reach 200 pounds and above. But after he died, I really started to take I really started to really take my body seriously. I learned how to fix my back pain. I really studied that. I have been working tirelessly to gain a lot of muscle in my legs, because my legs trailed far behind my upper body. And I always think to myself, what would he say? I know what he would say, but how would he try to roast me? How would he try to make fun of me? We had a very special type of relationship, which was very irreverent. I think a lot about the quotes that he put in my head that not only helped to steady me through some very dark times over the past year, but also allowed me to help other people. The two quotes that stand out being, have gratitude in your attitude, or put gratitude in your attitude. That's a huge one, because I really could think about all the things that I don't have, like my father. but I'm grateful. I'm grateful for my security. I'm great. I don't have a security team. I'm grateful for my support team in my life. The ladies at home, the sisters, you know who you are. In fact, when I found out my father died, I was servicing a session for one of the sisters. And even though she was paying a lot of money for my time, she recognized the gravity of the news that I had just gotten. In fact, I rejected the phone call because I was in a session with her. Sisters have been invaluable in offering support. You know, they had already been through it. They lost their mother when they were young. And one of them actually is a certified grief counselor. And you know, I try not to lean on people, especially those that pay me for my services, but they've been very generous in the spirit that they have kind of loaned me when I needed it the most. There are some of my very super long time friends I've been friends with, 20 years or longer. You guys know who you are. Basically, if I send this link to you, you're in that support group. And I was very afraid, I was very afraid when my father died, because this is a really bad time of the year for me. And I relied very heavily on his support to deal with the seasonal affective disorder that I think now that I have a better understanding of my body, I believe was exacerbated by depression and poor diet. A bit of malnutrition over the years, I think, made it worse. This is a really tough video to make, I gotta tell you. I'm grateful for the wisdom that my father gave me. And from beyond the grave, he gave me a lot of inspiration. And I think that he would be surprised, but pleasantly surprised, at how I've dealt with what really could have been a really hard winter. My first full winter without my father to support me during this time. And I've come through it probably better than any winter that I've encountered in my 41 years. I think he'd be very proud of that. My father was very imperfect. He had another quote he used to say all the time. He says, "I'm blessed by the best, but I'm still a mess." My dad really tried so hard to try to put a smile on every person's face that he possibly could while he was in increasingly more severe pain and discomfort. my dad used to call me so often and just, I guess I was one of the only people that he could really confide in to say, man, I'm in so much pain. But if anybody else was around, especially when we were on the phone, he would change that inflection in his voice, deep, rumbly, uproarious laughter to try to not have anybody else be affected by what was ailing him. That means a lot. Even though life was getting increasingly worse for him, he really tried to do things that made him happy. He tried to give me as much as he possibly could before he left. But I have to say, there is a bit of frustration that I feel because so much has happened in the world in the last 365 days. And I didn't always agree with his opinions on things, but I just really wish that I could get his opinion with everything, the election and the fires and Diddy, the Diddy revelations. I did plead with him to watch the infamous Cat Williams interview with Shannon Sharp, because a lot came after that. My dad wasn't really having it. He was like, I don't care what's going on with those people. But man, so much came after that. I really wish that I could have gotten his perspective on a lot of the stuff going on. A couple months ago, I get emotional thinking about it. I hit this psychological rough patch that I can't even really explain, where I just thought about my dad constantly, like just missing my father. Sometimes I go to pick up my wife across town at night, and I used to just call him. I would leave the garage. I would call him. We would talk about a bunch of different stuff. And, since then, Mrs. Evil, she's been driving herself, but occasionally I would go and pick her up from work when she didn't drive to work herself. And just pulling out of the garage, my brain instantly went to, let me call Dad. Wow. And the phrase just kind of stuck in my head. This would be a good time to call Dad. And I'm like, nope. Can't do that anymore. Find an interesting nature or wilderness survival video on YouTube that he loves so much. If I sent this link, it'll probably go to somebody else and they'll be like, who the fuck is this? But I sit here in my car on leg day, determined, even though I'm really emotional and probably flooded with cortisol. I sit here talking to you guys about what's gone through my mind in the last 365 days without one of the very most important people in the world to me. And I'm upset right now. But I could tell you with confidence that I'm coming out on the other side. I've never been this psychologically healthy. I've never been this physically healthy, probably ever in my life. My dad, I get the impression that my dad would probably make fun of me. He would probably roast me and say something to the effect of, "Why did you wait until after I died to become this? Why couldn't you do this while I was still here so I could see it?" My dad would roast me in some way like that. And I would laugh and say touche. Man, I miss my dad. 20 years ago, I would have never thought that would be the case. 22 years ago. I'm so grateful to be in a place where I could legitimately miss my father and be justified. My relationship with him was a minor miracle the last 20 years of his life. I also have to admit, that I've met quite a few people in the last year that are older or around the age my father was when he died. He died at age 63. One of them is a neighbor of mine who's 61 years old. And I saw him the other day and I was like, damn, your biceps are like damn near bigger than mine. He's a yoga teacher that just was like, I'm 61, I'm just going to put on some muscle. And just like me, no TRT, no gear. He just focused on improving his body. And just, the dude looks amazing at age 61. Another age 60 neighbor of mine looks like a master's pro bodybuilder. The gym that I go to, there's a father and son combination where the father is 75 years old. And he's in there working with his 50-plus-year-old son. Every time I go in there on Sunday, he's there. And they're working out together. And I do get jealous. And I do get frustrated. I begged my father, please be more active. He was like, well, I got a walker. I can't wait to get a wheelchair. And I just pleaded with him, no, go in the opposite direction. Go in the opposite direction. Try to get away from the walker. I'll come drive the hour and a half, 2 hours it takes to come work with you. Just don't give up. Then a month after he died, I got a call from a physical therapist's office who was calling me because they were looking for him to schedule his first physical therapy appointments. And there was a mixture of anger and sadness and, dare I say, even relief in some way, because the message did get through eventually. I asked him, please don't give up. Please keep trying. Please don't go quietly into that good night. And I kind of take a small amount of solace in the fact that he heard me. He heard my pleas, and he at least tried. He asked for physical therapy. And then there is, thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for waiting until after he passes away. Thanks. You guys are so wonderful. Thank you, insurance industry. We know that it's bad to play Super Mario Brothers with health insurance company CEOs. I know it's bad to do that. But, thanks a lot, guys. So, I've been spending much of the last year pleading with everybody that I've ever had any kind of intimate conversation with to value your parents, especially your favorite parent. Please. Even if you don't agree with what they're saying, even if it feels like they're being overbearing, just try to absorb their voice as much as you possibly can. Because you don't really understand the fragility of life and the permanence of death until you lose your favorite parent. You lose your most impactful parent. That's when the realities of life and death really hit. And it's unforgiving, it's punishing. When it teaches that lesson. I thought my father would live forever. I thought he was damn near indestructible from all the things that he survived. Now I'm sitting here talking to you guys, hoping that something that I said in this video will achieve that immortality for him. Something about him that I learned will somehow provide some value that will help something about him to continue to live on. I think that's all I got for you guys today. And I hope you learned something. I hope you learned something. I hope you got some sort of inspiration, or perhaps if you have been where I sit right now, perhaps maybe there is something shared there that will let you know that you're not alone in this world. All right, y'all, that's what I got. Thanks so much for watching.